Okay, welcome everybody to the final Young Climate Champion session of the year. We are very lucky to have two folks from the California Climate Action Corps joining us today. We have Yasmin and Vanessa. Um, they're not just from California Climate Action Corps, they're also people that I consider my friends and work colleagues from my other job. So um, consider yourselves lucky that they have taken time out of their evening to speak to us all today. Just some reminders for all of the Young Climate Champions. Please make sure that you are engaged and listening. And there will be a Q&A, so you can either put questions in the chat during the presentation, or you can save your questions until the end. Um, and with that, I will turn it over to Yasmin and Vanessa.
Hi everyone. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me well. Pretty clear? Good. Cool. Okay. Well, let me share my screen real quick. Oh, so me and Vanessa will today be just talking about what CCAC is, pretty much what we do and like what it could lead up to for like future careers or like experiences you can have at CCAC. And yeah. All right. So here you go. CCAC, how to become involved in climate action.
Is me. So I'm Vanessa. We'll
So
introduce ourselves in a bit, but I just want to first explain what is California Climate Action Corps or CCAC. And basically, it's a conglomerate of a program that was launched like 3 years ago by the California Volunteers and under the Office of the Governor. And it's basically the first ever like focus on climate action service, not just like advocacy. We focus on like actually doing, so that's why we call it climate action. And it's a fellowship that places people with organizations for wildfire resiliency, food recovery, and urban greening. Urban greening is our focus, but we have there's a lot of organizations that we'll get into later that are doing a lot different things than what we're doing, but still, like, we're all have the same common goal of climate action. And there's 110 organizations and about a little bit more than 400 of us fellows in the state of California. So we're pretty big, and there's some organizations that or host sites that have been with CCAC for 3 years since the beginning, and there's some that are just new, like our host site, and Yasmin will get into that.
yeah. So our host site, the one we're located at currently, it's its first year with CCAC, and our host site is Sierra Service Project. So Sierra Service Project started out with like its biggest mission being, to build strong connections within communities by providing youth like home repair skills to help their communities. But that's kind of evolved to become a little bit more than that. And for example, like now they have an urban greening, like urban agriculture fellowship that they provide. And now they have us, the CCAC, also helping them out with those projects. So they have different programs. They have the Sacramento Sustainability Academy, who focus on like construction, urban ag. And they have North Sacramento Free Tool Library, where they provide like tools that community members might need but don't have access to most of the time. They lend those out for a certain amount of time to these people. And then every summer they have the summer at Del Norte County and Navajo Nation. And Sierra Service Project has a whole bunch of different things that they're involved in. But yeah, their biggest goal though is to just bring the community together and just help each other out at the end of the day.
Yeah, so we have our current projects that we are trying to help Sierra Service Project me basically like maintain the projects that they have and new projects. And some of the new projects we have is the Taylor Street Elementary School Memorial Garden. They had a teacher who really wanted a garden at that school, and she sadly passed away a year ago, and they just been trying to find a way to make this garden for her. They also have a lot of different projects. They like want to plant trees and their big field, and it's a beautiful school. So there's a lot of potential for them, especially to make the kids learn something, and they have very specific goals, and they said like in third grade they learn about like design like garden design or something like that. They're like we can implement that to our lesson. So it's very cool. The teachers are very excited. So we just recently went there. We laid down mulch. We took or One of the gardeners helped us take out the grass. We laid down mulch. We're about to start planting, and it's very exciting. This is going to be a very beautiful space and a great reminder of what the teacher wanted. And then we also have a new project, Mount Calvary Baptist, or I think it's Mount Calvary Missionary Baptist Church. And we made this whole entire design. Atlas made a beautiful food forest. And we have a chicken coop going. It's very, very exciting. We have a lot going, and we have a lot of plans for that church. And hopefully, we'll leave it in really good hands for the church to maintain and help basically the community. And one of their goals is to have the kids that who want to go to college, so kids your age. I shouldn't call you guys kids because I'm like a little bit older than you, but it's okay. Like college students, high school and college students who want money for a scholarship or just want to have a business for themselves to sell like the eggs from the chickens, stuff that they grow in that garden. So that's the big vision for that church. And the International Garden of Many Colors, SSP or Sierra Service Project, has had a lot there, and we just maintained the whole entire space. We had a recent event with an organization, Golden One Credit Union, and they helped us a lot. We had a lot of hands to, this is a huge space, so that was really great. And then we have a lot of other little projects going. We just worked in West Sac today with a bunch of organizations. And yeah, so we're all around, but this is basically the current projects that we have going around. This is the North Sac area, if you guys are familiar. So, mostly around El Paso Heights.
Mhm. So yeah, so now we're just gonna do a pretty quick, brief, like know more about us, little introduction about us, where we come from, and what we're doing now, and what possibly what we want to do in the future. So start off with Vanessa.
Thanks. So yeah, so I actually grew up in Sacramento in South Sac. And when I was in high school, I didn't really like Sacramento, so maybe you guys feel the same way, but I just felt very like I couldn't really do anything in Sacramento. I was involved in a few organizations, mostly in like the political realm, and that's kind of what my idea of what I want to do in the future. But yeah, so I was in a few things, mostly like online stuff like this, just because half of my high school was during COVID. So I didn't really love SAC. I was just stuck in South SAC. And I wanted to get out, so I went to UC Santa Cruz, and it's a beautiful school. I love it. I studied politics and environmental studies. And in politics, I mostly focused on political theory, and then environmental studies, I did EJ, which is environmental justice. And if you see the third photo, that's me and my job. I had a legal job for 2 years when I was in Santa Cruz. And it was a lot of tedious work, but I really loved having an office job. But I could see how it would really make me feel bad if I did it in the long run, which is why I like kind of completely transitioned and did like more environmental work now. I just my lower back hurt all day. And I was like, I gotta get my steps in. And it was, yeah, but I mostly did family law. I did estate planning, which is like wills and trusts, just planning out for when you pass away and title transfers. So I worked with a really great paralegal there, but I was very focused on doing politics and going to law school. That kind of changed when I took a course in Watsonville. We went out there, which is, if you know anything about Santa Cruz, so there's Santa Cruz County. North of Santa Cruz is that's the actual city of Santa Cruz, which is a lot of people who are retired, a lot of multi-million dollar homes. And if you go to South County, which is Watsonville, it's an agriculture community. A lot of, I think it's like 80% of your strawberries come from Watsonville of in California. So they are doing some like like extensive work for all basically all of our nation's food. And it's a very there's a lot of minorities there, mostly Hispanic and Black population there, and they have a lot of great community gardens. So I got involved in the community gardens, then started getting involved in the community gardens at my school at UCSC, and it just I was really connecting with the community, and it just made me feel so much different than my legal job. So I was like, okay, that's what I want to do after. And to be honest, I found CCAC just because I was looking at Handshake, which is like this our college version of like LinkedIn and like Indeed. So, and then I know my professor for my environmental studies seminar, she did a AmeriCorps program, which is this is kind of like a AmeriCorps program, in a way. And yeah, so that's how I found out about CCAC. But all of that to say is that like I started doing politics and legal stuff, didn't really see, or I that's what I wanted to do, and I didn't really see myself going to environmental sphere. I just had that as a major, just honestly, just because I needed a double major, or I would have finished school in like 2.5 years, which might sound good, but I was not ready to graduate. Um, but yeah, so that's why I came into CCAC.
Hey, um, so, too far. Okay, so me. So I grew up in Lamont, California. It's a really small agricultural town, like 20 minutes away from Bakersfield, California, if any of you know where that is. But it's just, I grew up around a lot of agriculture and like my parents were farm workers. They moved out here from Mexico a long time ago, and so I was raised just learning how to like grow food and like that's what I grew up around constantly and has shaped me to be who I am today. But yeah, I grew up there and eventually I went to school at UCLA in Los Angeles eventually. And that's where I studied psychology with like a minor in film. So nothing really nothing environmental actually. But I did love the one thing I did love in LA was the beautiful hikes and the different like trails they had. This one right here, this picture specifically is from Escondido Hills, Escondido Falls, right by Topanga Park area. It's kind of sad to like think about what it might look like now because I know if you all remember, there was a huge like wildfire like last year. So I don't know if it still looks like this. I hope it still is doing okay. But yeah, so yeah, I went to UCLA, studied psychology and film, graduated and had no idea what I was gonna do. So I was also similar to Vanessa said. I was scrolling through like Handshake and I saw CCAC like offering fellowships and I just applied because why not? Because I love nature. I grew up around plants constantly and love hiking. So I applied and I was accepted and I did my first fellowship in Novato, California, which is like near the Bay Area. And my first CCAC fellowship really focused a lot on environmental education with young elementary school students and also green waste and like composting. So a lot of my work a year ago at Nevada was just teaching and working with kids and like teaching them different things in the garden, the school garden. And yeah, and I decided I wanted to kind of transition into more of a garden and urban greening aspect in terms of a career. And so I applied again, but this time I applied to Sierra Service Project because that's what one of their missions was to help maintain different gardens around North SAC. And so, yeah, that's what I did. And now I'm with Sierra Service Project for my second year at CCAC. And this photo right here, you might recognize that person right there is Atlas putting a plant in the ground. That was from one of our events a couple weeks ago at the church mentioned earlier, where we're trying to create this new garden. And yeah, that was our first event there. And it did really good. We did planted a lot of plants and we did a lot of work. And there's still more to come, a lot more work to do there.
This is basically how you get involved in California climate action. So the first thing is serve like us. So we're fellows, and it's an 11-month term program starting in no, starting September and ending in August. Um, and you get trainings, earn certifications, build professional skills, and basically serve with your host sites. And that applications typically go out a little bit before August. I think I applied in like June or July-ish. Um, but you need to, or we'll get into eligibility, but yeah, so that's one way to get involved. Another way is to volunteer. So you can make a golden volunteer account and basically see what events are happening in the area and just volunteer with those organizations. And we post a lot on Golden Volunteer. You might see us like a lot because we have a lot of events going on. So that's one way to get involved like right now. And another way is to act. So you can take a climate action pledge. Atlas took this same pledge, and it's basically like, what climate actions are you going to take or are you currently taking to fight climate change? So if you scan that QR code and that, and then we'll bring this up at the end so you guys can take the pledge. But yeah, that also helps us with our metrics, and we have to like record how much stuff we do. So, and also like record how many people take the pledge. So we'll do that at the end as well.
So, CJC is pretty awesome organization considering like that the type of work you do is usually work you do for free as a volunteer, like planting trees or like weeding a garden. Like usually that's sort of stuff people usually volunteer and do. But we get paid. We get a living allowance of like 35K for 11 months. It's a stipend that's distributed twice a month. And not only that, but we also get some education awards to use after we leave the fellowship to pursue future post-grad education or to even if you left um, undergrad with debt, you can use these education awards to cover that as well. But yeah, there's also health insurance that they provide that the company itself provides, childcare assistance for people who qualify. And very helpful most of all is though we do get paid a living allowance, that living allowance doesn't count as income. So therefore, us fellows, we qualify for a full for SNAP basically. If we have no other job and that's our only source of income, we qualify for SNAP and also Medi-Cal um, as a result. So yeah, there's a lot of nice financial benefits that come from CCAC, but also you got a large community of different people with like similar goals and um like ideas and like a large community of people you can network with for future careers and just you know you might come out with like friends and like people you might get to know and like, it's more than just, financial benefits, but like you get to grow as a person and meet cool people along the way. Oh,
And so how, oh, wait, I was gonna
I
repeat
went
our
back,
slightly.
sorry.
So for eligibility, you need to be a citizen or national or lawful permanent resident of the United States. You need to do a background check, and they'll pay for that as well. And then you need to be at least 18, living in California. You could be from a different state and then now living in California. I think it's like 2 months before you start your service. I know people from like New York and stuff. They just moved to California to do this program. And then you need to have a high school diploma, and then you need to be committed to the full term of service. So that means not attending school while while doing CCAC, so you can take a break, or you can do one of their other programs. They have College Core, and I think that's all I know for the one that you can do with. I know they have Triple C, but I'm not sure if you could do that when you're in college. But if you're taking a gap year, this will be a great opportunity, or thinking maybe about taking gap year in the future or after graduation, or this could even be like post, like you don't know what you're doing in your life at all. You had like a great career for like 20 years and then you're like, I'm done. Let me do CCAC. You can also do that. Um, but you just need to have all of these qualifications. And yeah.
Cool. And so one of the coolest part about CCC is just how many host sites there are. There are so many, and they're all like spread out throughout California, minus Bakersfield. Kind of unfortunate, but I think the closest one in like that area would be in Fresno. But yeah, there's like so many like in the Bay Area, Northern California, San Diego. There's a lot in LA as well. Pretty awesome. But some examples of some host sites specifically around like Sacramento area might be like Wildfire Resilience organizer at Rancho Cordova. You can be a fellow at Cal Recycle, CCAC, UC Davis. They have landscape adaptation fellows. In my previous term, I was a what was that? It was like a sustainability fellow with Sustainable Marine Schools located in Novato, California. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of places you could potentially work at. Um, and yeah, and when you're applying to CCAC, they'll let you choose up to 5 different organizations to apply towards, and each organization will see that you showed interest in them, and you'll like stand out compared to other people because you showed interest in them. And yeah.
Yeah, like Yasmin said, this is basically the map of where every host site is. So there's a lot of LA, there's a lot Bay Area, and then it's kind of scattered throughout. There's sadly some like there are just like one all up there, but we try to connect with them sometimes. It's a little hard, but it's okay. So yeah, it's a bunch of host sites. I know a lot of host sites doing great stuff. So if you ever feel like you're gonna move somewhere or just want to move to a city one day, to do this, then there's a lot of options.
Also, this isn't set in stone list. It's constantly getting new and more sites each year because it's only like its third, fourth year of like going in California. So, you hopefully sometime Central Valley will be full of more locations as well. And it's just a matter of like organizations finding out more about CCAC and applying and being able to get these fellows to work with them. So hopefully the list gets bigger as the future comes. And yeah, so another thing about CCAC is you do get to meet different kinds of people, and network with different types of people with like different careers. And you also get to learn more about what sort of career you might want to go into in the future. Um, Me personally, I would hope to eventually go into like habitat restoration. still not sure if I want to go more towards what's it called? Sea restoration or like just forest restoration, but it's still up in the air for myself, but there's multiple things you can come out as a result from working with CCAC. We've got community garden coordinator, I'm a policy aide if you want to go more towards like politics or anything like that. You got environmental educator coordinator. Sorry for misspelling it, I know. But that's if you want to go more to like education. Then you got sustainability analyst, habitat restoration program coordinator. There's like a whole bunch of things in like sustainability you can go towards, and the more time passes, I feel like the more careers open up because it's becoming a more in-demand career, specifically in California because California does really prioritize that sort of stuff. So yeah.
And we wanted to include a slide with our upcoming opportunities. We don't have events coming up, sadly, that we can promote. We will have events and we can post those on the Instagram, and you'll see on the Sierra Service Project website, which will have a slide about, or that's our ending slide. But they are hiring Sierra Service, or sorry, SSP is hiring for yeah, Sierra Service Project's hiring for their sustainability academy. So if you're staying in Sacramento for spring and fall, then they're hiring a program manager and some program fellows. And there's more details on the website to apply to.
Yeah. And yeah, if you ever have any questions or you want to learn more about SSP, about Climate Action Corp, or just any question at all about anything we talked about, feel free to message Vanessa or I at our emails up there. You can find more information about Sierra Service Project on their website. And then if you want to learn even more about Climate Action Corp, the website is also right there at the bottom. And yeah, I believe that's the last slide.
And then we'll
Yeah,
also
that's the
stay for a
last slide.
Q&A session. Thank you, Atlas, for giving us a space for us to present. But if you have any questions, then let us know.
Yeah, thank you both so much for sharing about your experience. I really appreciate it as well. I think when I was a high schooler, I definitely would look at adults and think that they like knew from day one exactly what they were gonna do and they just like followed that trajectory super clearly. But it's cool seeing other people where that wasn't the case, because that definitely wasn't the case for me either. Because I also started out studying political science and I absolutely hated it. And then I switched to environmental science and it was like finally I have like found my path basically. So um it's
Mm-hmm.
also really great. I wish that when I was in high school, I knew about these kind of programs or had access to these programs. Because I think the idea of like taking a gap year to do climate action is amazing. I wish I had access to that opportunity. So I know not all of y'all are like ready to graduate just yet, but this is such a great opportunity. One, because if you do take a gap year, you will finish this program having $10,000 to put directly towards your education if you do want to go to college. But that entire year that you're spending working with Climate Action Corps, you're also getting really good job experience, and that can kind of help guide what you do when you're in college. Um, so I think this is an amazing program. I really highly recommend any of you, if this sounds like something you might want to do, highly recommend getting into it. I did see a question in the chat earlier. Um, it says the pledge says that you need to be 18 years or older. What if we're not 18 yet? I think
Just
someone tried
don't
to
do
fill out the pledge.
I didn't. I
Just
didn't
don't
know
do it
that.
yet.
So just don't do it today.
Okay. Um, do we have any other questions from the Young Climate Champions? Yeah, go ahead, Ella.
I had a really quick question for Vanessa because I applied to UC Santa Cruz with like the same major and I'm interested also in like focusing on environmental justice. So I was wondering if you could give me a little bit more insight about the program and like your experience at the school and just on that track because I'm also wondering if I should go into environmental law too, and I'm not totally sure if it's my thing. So I've just been thinking about it a lot.
Yeah, of course. So, I know so much about this topic, so I'm gonna try to say the best way as possible, but honestly, you're in a great track if you want to do environmental studies at UCSC. It's such a great school. There's great professors. If you like a professor, then stick with them. Just in any college, rate my professor is the best way to find out if a professor is good or not. Um, there was some annoying like prereqs I had to do, like chemistry, that like I had a bad professor, but mostly the environmental studies classes. Once you get into those are really great. EJ is also really great. I learned so much. There's a lot of you can email me and I will give you like more details, but there's a lot of list of professors that I recommend taking. Um, and I love the school. Something I didn't say, but when Yasmin brought up the hikes and stuff like that, I loved hiking. You have the forest, you have the ocean, and then I also worked in the farms in Watsonville. So I got a little bit of everything. I love UCSC. My sister goes to UCSC now, so I still go to Santa Cruz. Um, so yeah, I think you're in a great track in terms of environmental law. I did politics, so it was a little bit different. There is legal studies, so if you're more interested in the law, then maybe take some legal studies classes. I know there's one environmental law class. I don't know if they still have it. They didn't have it when I was there, but it's still listed in the course. Um, it's really hard because I reached out to the professor and I talked to him a little bit when he did teach that course. And environmental law is like you're if you want to make good money, you got to go to the bad guy side. You got to go to the big oil side. And when people say they're environmental lawyers, that doesn't mean that they want like the environment to be better. So that's something I'm still struggling with now is finding out like if I really want to do environmental law because if I do, I mean you're not gonna be a big shot lawyer. Um, you have to do it for the love of the environment, and that's why I'm glad I'm doing CCAC, but I mean UCSC is a great kind of school to explore that. And if you have great professors, which I did in politics and environmental studies, then you can talk to them about that and they can just help you guide you a little bit more. But also email me because I will give you a lot of great professor recs, coffee recs, and also food recs for Santa Cruz. So
Okay, thank
congrats.
you so much.
Yeah, of course.
I can also speak just a little bit to the other side of environmental law, like not working for a big corporation, but more on the side of the like small guys. So I have a friend who's going to UC Davis for environmental law, and she's like a legal aid for a small organization that does like, for example, if a community was like poisoned by like industrial waste, they will interview all the members of the community and then build like a class action lawsuit. And so it's a super small team. They have a really hard time. It takes years to gather all this information. It's really an uphill battle, but it's super rewarding work. And they have really made like huge successes in the work that they're doing. And then I also know another person doing environmental law at UC Davis who works directly with tribes. And so she does environmental law and tribal law. And there's a lot of like environmental protections that the tribes are trying to get for themselves, especially in California. So I don't want to completely dissuade you from environmental law, but I will agree with Vanessa that oftentimes the money is, if you're doing it for finances, which I would assume you're not because I know this is something you're passionate about, but if you're doing this for finances, you are definitely going to make more money like representing a big oil company. But if you're doing it for passion, there is definitely a space to go after the big oil companies when they're poisoning communities. It's just going to be a lot more difficult and it is going to take over your entire life. So that is something to consider. But I do think it's still worthwhile and it's really important work. And I'm really glad to know people that are doing environmental law to support the little guy because we need that. So yeah. Did anybody have any other questions? Okay, I'm seeing people shaking their head no. Um, well, once again, want to thank Vanessa and Yasmin. Before we like start doing the wrap up, I did want to give Ella a chance to talk about a program with 350 Sacramento. So I will give you the floor.
Okay, thank you. So I'm working with 350 Sacramento as an intern. I'm still in high school, obviously. I'm a senior and I go to Rio Americano High School. And for my internship, well, last year as a junior, I took the Student Environmental Activist Training Program. And that program is basically to help train Sacramento youth about activism, climate justice, and leadership as a whole. Hopefully you guys can hear me because I think I'm glitching a little bit or lagging. But anyways, so the program was really meaningful for me and it just like gave me a space to kind of gain more knowledge, but also participate in really fun discussions with students that and people that I hadn't met before. And so seeing that this year the program wouldn't be funded because of like lack of capacity and just the organization is a nonprofit, I decided as an intern to lead the program. So we're gearing up for it to begin in January and applications are out. I believe Atlas sent something in an email a couple days ago with a link to the application and a flyer form. And so it's a really good opportunity to like meet new people, gain knowledge, and just like expand your resume. We'll also have opportunities to volunteer and do in-person events as well. So I really encourage you guys to apply. I'll be on all of the meetings, kind of like facilitating them. And if you have any questions about kind of like more logistical things, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat. But I think I covered everything.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ella. And yes, I did send the information out in an email, I want to say on Monday. So you can also get the link directly from there. Um, so as you can see, there's just a lot of really great opportunities for you all to get involved either now or once you graduate. So I highly recommend taking advantage of these opportunities and also taking advantage of people offering their contact information. Even if you don't know, if you don't have an idea of like a question you might have now, there might be a point later on where it's like, oh, I met somebody that this is their field and this is what they work in. And then you have their information already. So highly recommend taking down that information whenever people offer it. I have a drawer full of business cards that I never look at, but then every once in a while there's a point where it's like, oh, I know somebody that does this thing, and I can go in my drawer and find their little business card. So um, it's very valuable, even if it doesn't necessarily immediately seem like it right now if you're too young for these programs or anything, but you will get to that age at some point. So just to wrap everything up, oh yeah, Ella sent info in the chat. Just to wrap everything up, like I said, this is our last session of the year, but we will be meeting again in January. So make sure that you're working on your final project because in January I will be checking in. We will be having short meetings so I can review everything that you've done so far. Um, and yeah, we can end early. I hope y'all have a good rest of your year. Enjoy the holidays, enjoy your winter break. Um, and make sure to reach out to folks if they mention a program that you're interested in. So yeah, you're free to go. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, I guess.